This is the Lee Enoch Show coming to you from University of North Texas with my good friend
Brock Bergen.
We're going to talk about a lot of sports tonight, but because this is the primary, the first primary of the year, we had a caucus last week where Trump just dominated DeSantis and Nikki Haley. We got to talk a little bit about politics. I know that's your forte, Brock, so I'll just go solo on this. So, welcome back, Brock.
Thank you.
We're back.
Glad to be back.
This is the fourth semester that Brock and I have been doing this podcast. It's been a blessing. Since I saw you last, Brock, my University of Michigan Wolverines won the national championship fair and square.
They did.
Now, I don't know about all that, sign stealing stuff, but I'm going to tell you something right now that's not really talked about too much. So, who was the quarterback for Washington?
Michael Penix Jr.
Yeah, Penix Jr. He only averaged 5 yards a completion.
Right.
Michigan has dominated them. No one's really talking about how the defense of Michigan.
Right. The Jesse Minter defensive coordinator group. He's just really good at what he does. He needs to get an NFL job.
They just dominated Washington. That guy was throwing like 375 yards a game.
Right.
And he threw 260 yards?
Right. He was in that range on national championship night too.
But averaging 5 yards a completion.
Right.
Insane. But anyways, getting back to politics real quick. So tonight we have a New Hampshire primary. I wouldn't want to be back in the East Coast. My sister lives in Michigan. And a shout out to my sister Debbie. First podcast of the year. I don't think there's anybody more loyal to this podcast than my sister. My biggest critic, but also my biggest fan. She'll tell me immediately if something doesn't go right in this podcast. But they were dealing with some major cold weather on the.
As someone who is from there, we know a ton of people there. It is not looking good up there.
Yeah,
not at all.
But anyway, so in New Hampshire tonight, Republican primaries are down to Donald Trump, 77-year-old Donald Trump.
He's that old.
Yeah, going against Nikki Haley. I know Joe Biden's 82, but he seems like he's 98, right? It's pretty. So, here's the question. If Trump wins tonight, if he just dominates Nikki Haley tonight, the race is already over. But here's the issue. Trump has 91 indictments against him. It's possible that you have the nominee of a major party in Donald Trump being in prison, running for president from prison. That's what we're talking about. Now, I think it's going to be delayed. His court case is going to get delayed. And if he wins the presidency again, he will probably self-pardon himself the first day in office. And it's going to be a constitutional crisis from the very first day he's off. But that's been the whole thing of Trump is that everything's been a constitutional crisis ever since he's been running for president in 2016, right? Some chaos has been involved. But you know what? I don't want to give a lot of credence to a lot of things that Trump says, but Joe Biden is not coherent, Brock. I watched some interview of him recently, and I don't know, man. That guy is just like, you're 82, bro. It's time to, at some point, you got to just retire because he's just not there. I don't know if it's some kind of cognitive decline like they're saying. Both these guys, 77 and 82-year-old guys running for president. Can we get some new blood in here? I think after these guys, we get some younger guys in there. But so we got issues of immigration. We've got issues of inflation. The prices of groceries right now are astronomical, Brock. There's a lot of election issues going on. The economy. We'll see what happens. But if Nikki Haley gets crushed tonight and she loses really, really bad, a good chance She might step out, and it's just Trump wins the nomination again, and he'll go against Biden in the fall. That's what, and despite the fact he's got 91 indictments against him in 4 different court cases, I don't know what's going to happen there, Brock. But so that's that. So let's get back into sports, Brock. So we've got the issue of Michigan. Some people have said that there needs to be an asterisk, towards Michigan's championship because
Right,
of
I've
the
seen that a
sign.
ton.
I don't know if I agree with that. I don't know if that's. I mean, Jim Harbaugh did do the 3-game suspension, right?
He did.
He did, and so that's over. At least the sign stealing thing is over. They worked out a deal. He worked out a deal with the NCAA. If he steps down or steps out of the game for 3, steps out and doesn't coach in a real game in 3 games, for those 3 games, then it's over. There's no more penalty towards Michigan. And so, I mean, the assistant coaches did really, really well. So what do you think the keys were to Michigan winning that? They just grounded and pounded it, huh?
Right, against Alabama and against Washington, their defense just stepped up, just really aggressive shutdown of both offenses, and then their run game with Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards, that was they just both produced very well. They obviously had Roman Wilson getting a ton of catches, and then you had it was pretty much just an all-around just shutdown of both teams, especially Washington.
So Donovan Edwards, right?
Right, that's him.
Donovan Edwards stepped up like never before.
He sure did.
Well, Ohio State a couple years ago,
against Ohio State in 2021 as well.
he just exploded, right?
Right.
And he had over 200 yards against Ohio State.
He did.
And this year, I don't know what. Oh, he was injured, kind of injured.
He was out for that game this year, I think.
But he just didn't have the explosiveness.
Right.
And so he comes back, and no one was expecting that. No one was expecting him to just run off 2 like 45-yard, massive runs like that.
Right.
So you think Blake Corum is a NFL player?
I think both of them are going to be in this year's draft. So I feel like they're both going to be later, like day 2, day 3 picks, I'd say. I think Edwards personally has a higher ceiling than Corum does. He's just faster, but Corum is a lot more productive on the ground, but Edwards is just faster. So I mean, if I would endorse the Packers to take one of them on day 2 or day 3 to get a running back behind Aaron Jones.
Hey, can you check, Brock? I know you get your phone. I don't think you're right on that. I think Donovan Edwards is not. He's staying his senior year.
Is he actually? Let me see.
Yeah, I think
he's.
You know what I'm saying? I think it's going to be his senior year. He's going to stay with Michigan.
Oh no, he's foregoing the NFL draft. He's back in Michigan for this.
Yeah,
season.
because he just wasn't. The thing was, he just did for most of the season. He didn't have the explosiveness. I don't think he would have went very high in the draft. I think so. That's probably good. He's going to be the dog, right?
Right.
He's going to try to bust out. Is Blake Corum a first-round draft pick?
He's most certainly not a first round pick, but I think he's gonna be like I'm gonna say he's a 3rd or 4th round pick, or maybe 5th, because usually teams don't really like to reach on running backs that high unless it's like a superstar, unless it's like someone in the vein of like Bijan Robinson last year or something like that. Teams don't really take running backs in the 1st round that much anymore, but at the same time, some team will probably take him. I feel like he's a round 3 pick, round 4.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. While you get your phone, is it Hakeem Haskins?
Hassan Haskins.
Hassan Haskins, yeah, from
Ohio
Michigan.
He was at
Michigan.
Michigan, yeah.
And then he went to the Giants, right?
He's on the Titans. He was taken in the 4th round in 2022.
Okay, so what was his stats this year? Because I know he had some legal problems.
Let's see. This year he had. Let's see. Hold up. He had. Yeah, he didn't really. He didn't do much. He didn't play this year. 2022 he had 93 yards or 93 rushing yards, 57 receiving yards. So he didn't do much last year. This year he was placed on IR for the season, and then he was arrested along with his ex-girlfriend due to like a domestic violence exchange or whatever that was, and then he was placed on the commissioner exempt list, so he was out for the entire season this year.
Yeah, it doesn't look good for that guy. I don't
Not
know
good
if
at all.
probably not going to play anymore in the NFL.
Luckily, Tennessee does have Tyjae Spears as that should be their prime running back if Derrick Henry walks this offseason.
So, everybody, this is Lee Enox with Brock Burgeon. We've been doing this podcast now for 4 semesters, our 4th semester. So, Brock, you're going into your sophomore?
Right, I'm in my sophomore year.
Okay. And you're going to do your 5th and goal this year?
Absolutely, that's the plan.
Yeah, and Lee
We
Pierce knows the sports. Lee Pierce says he wants to come on here. So you guys going to be pulling double duty, huh? Coming on the Lee Enox show and doing your own podcast. What day are you going to do that?
Absolutely. Okay, yeah, that micro was being screwed up, but absolutely, that's the plan. We have, we should be good to go because I know for sure we're probably going to record next week because if we'll do a Super Bowl preview after NFC Championship and AFC Championship are done. We have our Instagram account. We've done a few live streams recapping some games too. We did those over break. We're thinking. I think it's going to be the same old Monday schedule, barring anything happening. But at the same time, it depends on what we've got going on because like depends on like certain times, certain events this offseason. Because even then, we'll still have like. We'll definitely be doing some free agency predictions, offseason predictions, NFL draft predictions, all of that going on. So we've got a lot of big things planned for this to launch this podcast this offseason.
So we've got the Ravens, Baltimore Ravens, with spectacular Lamar Jackson.
Absolutely, just an incredible performance on Saturday. He is definitely. I'm taking him as the MVP of the league this year.
Even though this year is not as great as that one year he did, like that year he threw for 36 touchdowns and ran over 1,000 yards, but still had a great year.
He still had a really good year. It's not like his 2019 year where he was unanimous MVP, but he still put up just elite numbers all season this year.
Is he one of the best quarterbacks in the league when he's on?
He is, absolutely.
Because he can run super fast, huh?
Right. He can run. He can throw. People tried discrediting his throwing ability, but that was back when he didn't have any receivers to throw to, so he didn't really throw that much back years ago. But now he has a really solid receiving core now, and he's been just profited a ton off of that. He's been elite this year.
All right, Brock, I'm going to challenge you on something. I want you to make a controversial statement right now.
All right.
Is Lamar Jackson in his prime right now? Is this prime Lamar Jackson? Or can he be better than this?
I would say this is his prime because if he's going to keep having like seasons like this, that's going to be his prime. If he's going to consistently produce the way he did this year and next year after that, big things are coming for him. He could even start that off with winning a Super Bowl.
So here's a question I have for you. Here's the controversial thing. Is prime Lamar Jackson a better player overall than prime Michael Vick?
Oh, that is a tough one. That's a really tough one. I mean, during Vick's prime, I would say his first prime in Atlanta was much better than his prime in Philadelphia. But even then, the NFL, it's a pretty interesting comparison given the NFL during Vick's prime in the early 2000s and compared to his later good years in the 2010s. The NFL back then was a lot different than it is now because it was more. Nowadays, it's more of a passer's league. Like you have to have a ton of weapons and all that. But I would if you were to put Lamar's best season 2019 and his current season 2023, I would say that stacks up well against Michael Vick's best season. That was in I'd say 2002, 2003, 2004, that whole era. So that's a pretty interesting debate. I've seen that debate a ton for the past few years.
Well, I would say this. Michael Vick evolved into a good passer.
Right, he did.
Okay, I think Lamar Jackson overall, in my opinion, is overall a better player than Michael Vick.
That's fair enough.
But Michael Vick in his prime, even when he was playing for Virginia Tech, was just unstoppable runner. When I think he was even faster runner than Lamar Jackson.
Right, I would say he definitely set the standard for mobile quarterbacks because in that era, it was like I said compared to this era, it wasn't very mobile now back then. Like it was more a pass happy league. It still is a passer. It still is a passers league nowadays, but there's more running quarterbacks mainly because of the influences of Vic, which is passed on to Lamar Jackson. Now you've just got a lot.
Allen for Buffalo.
Right, Josh Allen's another really good mobile quarterback.
Yeah,
He
Cam Newton. Cam Newton was a
Newton
great
as
too.
well. Yep, in his prime too.
Hey, why don't you do me a favor and check out the stats for let me see. Let's see who. Oh, type in Tom Brady's rushing stats. So Tom Brady was in the league for what, 20 years, 22 years?
Right, 22 years.
How many yards did he run for his entire career? Like 1,200 yards?
His entire career for rushing yards, he had. Let me look.
Barely 1,200 yards, I'm going to say.
Let's look at his rushing stats. His overall rushing stats, he just reached. He had 1,123 rushing yards.
1,023.
1,123.
Okay, so 1,123 yards.
Right.
In 22 seasons.
Right.
So basically, you've had Lamar Jackson doing that in a season.
He does that pretty much every year, and then he compared that to like a guy like
Well,
Tom
he slowed
Brady.
down a little bit. I think he had 800 yards this year.
Right. He's slowed down, I would say, because of he's had like for the past 2 seasons or 3, he's had a few injury problems. Like people question his durability back then, but I think he put all that to rest this year.
Cool. I have a question. Why can't Josh Allen win the big one?
I mean, I wouldn't like the thing is I'm gonna go through the last few Bills playoff losses. 2019 against the Texans, not his fault. 2020 against the Chiefs, not really his fault. 2021 against the Chiefs, absolutely not his fault. 2022 last season against the Bengals, for that game he didn't produce at all. He barely produced. That Bengals defense just shut him down, shut him and Stephon Diggs down. That offense couldn't get going at all. So that was I'll put some of the blame on him. This year, not his fault, but at the same time, yeah, I wouldn't argue that it's his. I'd say he's like, it reminds me of like Phillip Rivers in the 2000s. He put up good numbers. He put up good enough to win, but the rest of the team would just let him down. Like Stephon Diggs dropping that one deep throw and then that obvious Tyler Bass missed field goal. There's just like, it feels like Allen's gonna like forever be one of those quarterbacks that's just like elite year in and year out, but he just gets failed by the team around him and can't win it all because of that.
Well, the thing about Phillip Rivers is that he had LaDainian Tomlinson.
He did, but like at the same time, like most of those Chargers playoff losses were, I wouldn't like, obviously you can look like 2006 against the Patriots. Tom Brady throws an interception. Chargers are up 8, and then on the interception, Marlon McCree fumbles it. Patriots get it back, score a touchdown, tie the game. Then they take lead on field goal, and then Chargers run down, miss the field goal to tie it, and that ends that. And then like you can go into the 2007 AFC Championship again. That wasn't Rivers' fault. He played through a torn ACL. 2009 against the Jets, kicker misses 4 field goals. So that's like he's had really bad luck when it comes to his teams.
I have a question. So that year, I don't know if you're old enough to remember this, but the Chargers, I think they were still in San Diego.
Right.
And they went 14-2 that one year?
Right. That was 2006.
You're old enough to remember that?
I mean, I don't remember that. Like I was like 3 years old when that happened, but at the same time, I've seen like a ton of like replays, all that from like, but that was the Chargers' best season in forever.
Yeah, so LaDainian Tomlinson was on that team, and that team should have went to the Super Bowl.
Right.
So speaking of the Super Bowl, and this is what we're going to call today. This is a Super Bowl preview. Actually, the AFC Championship, NFC Championship preview show. We're kicking off the Lee Enoch show for the 2024 spring season and spring semester. Talking about NFL football, just talking about sports in general. To circle back for a second, we got the New Hampshire primaries tonight. Trump can seal the victory. He could seal pretty much the primaries tonight. If he wins by like 20% tonight, it's over, and Trump will more than likely seal up the nomination. If Nikki Haley can get it under 10%, she'll keep going on. But South Carolina primary is coming up in February. The crazy thing is Nikki Haley is from South Carolina, but they're saying that Trump is just going to dominate that state, just utterly dominate. So tonight is really, really big. We'll see what happens. Joe Biden is not even on the New Hampshire. For some reason, he didn't want to be on the primary ballot. So there's going to be a write-in. So, but there's no indication that Biden will be challenged really by much during this primary season. More than likely, it's going to be Trump against Biden again. We'll see what happens. But let's get back into football, Brock. So we got Baltimore. How is their defense in comparison to past years when they had what's his name?
When they had Wink Martindale in charge.
When they had Ray Lewis.
I would say this defense that the Ravens have now, I would put it as just as good as their 2012, 2013 defenses. I would say this defensive group led by Mike McDonald has just been on top of things all season. This is I'd put this up there with the Niners as the best defense in the league. This is like, they have shown like Kyle Hamilton, one of the best safeties in the league, Roquan Smith, one of the best linebackers in the league. They have a really solid corner group. They've just been doing this all season. That's what's led to their elite season this year.
So when, if I ever saw a cult in the NFL, it was the 2012 Baltimore Ravens. I never saw a player get his team so jacked up and excited than Ray Lewis. It was Ray Lewis's last season. That was a mediocre team, honestly.
Right. I mean, Joe Flacco was still good. I mean, he wasn't like some top 5 quarterback. He was good enough for them to win. I'd say that.
But I mean, I'm just saying, was that the year that Ray Lewis hurt his shoulder and he's out there tackling people with one arm? Or was that the year before?
I think that might have been the season before that.
I mean, that guy was insane.
He was.
Yeah, it's a sad, tragic thing. His son died of a drug overdose. Ray Lewis.
Right, that was recent, I think.
Yeah, that was horrible. But I don't think I ever saw a player that put his heart and soul into the game like Ray Lewis.
Right.
I mean, I would see Ray Lewis. You ever see those slow motion things where he's out there talking to people?
I have.
Hey, we're going to play today. We're playing some football today. You better come to play, right? And I just saw the young players, for Baltimore that year, to go, we got to win it for Ray. We got to win it for Ray. It was wow. And Ray Lewis, I saw one game where I think he had 12 or 15 tackles in a playoff game,
I think that was 2012 against the Colts, 2013.
Oh, my goodness. That guy was insane. I think he's one of the top linebackers in the history of...
He is. Absolutely.
Yeah. What is he? Is he still on? He wasn't that good of an announcer, right? But
I think he's. Let me see. I remember him doing some kind of analysis a while ago. He was. Let's see.
He'd be a great linebacker coach, to be truthful with you, but
he would. Right now, he does. Let me see. Right now, he is. Yeah, he was with ESPN from 2013 and 2016. He's an FS1 analyst for Fox right now. He's had a few of those analysis stint careers right after his career ended.
Yeah, he's definitely one of the best linebackers in the history of football. So we got Kansas City. Kansas City could easily go in the Super Bowl again.
They can. I would say this is it's crazy that even during what's considered a down year for the Chiefs and Mahomes, they're still in the AFC Championship for the 6th year in a row.
This is 6 years in a row,
right? The 2018 season against the Patriots, 2019 against the Titans, 2020 against the Bills, 2021 against Cincinnati. last season against Cincinnati again, and now this season against the Ravens.
Joe Burrow, is he coming back next year? Is he still pretty hurt?
He'll be back next year. I mean, I feel like he's gonna be back. He's gonna be the same Joe Burrow we've seen all from his career. He's gonna be back. He's gonna be good next year. This year is just bad luck for Cincinnati altogether.
What happened to him again this year?
He tore his ACL,
Oh,
I think,
no.
against the Ravens. He was injured in training camp, but he was able to get back in time for the season. But then he just re-aggravated it against the Ravens and on Thursday Night Football, and he's been out since.
Hey, would you say that Joe Burrow kind of comes out of like the Tom Brady mode? Not the greatest athlete, but just a super great passer?
I would say last season pretty much proved that. Like last season, the season before that, he just comes out of he's like the guy that'll put up he'll put up good numbers. He won't put up MVP numbers in the regular season, but he'll put up really good numbers, and then playoffs, he'll turn it all the way up to another level and then take you to the big one.
So that year that LSU, he turned it up like crazy, huh?
Right. He put up just some of the greatest numbers we've seen in college football history.
Like 60 touchdown passes and
Right.
almost like 5,000 yards passing or something like that year.
Right.
And they went 15-0. So now we got San Francisco. So San Francisco could easily win the Super Bowl this year. They could easily beat Detroit, huh?
Right. I mean, I feel like, I'm not going to count out the Lions at all, but at the same time, this does not feel like it's going to be close. I mean, this Niners team last week, of course, they lose to the Packers if a few things go wrong, but at the same time, they've just been rolling through everybody this season. I don't think this Sunday is going to be any different. I mean, this is Kyle Shanahan in the conference championship. You got Purdy surrounded by the Avengers on offense and defense. This is a team built to beat a team like Detroit. I mean, Detroit obviously they beat the Rams, beat Tampa Bay, but I feel like this is where their run ends here. The Niners are just they have NFC Championship experience. They've been in they're a sustainable contender. They're just a league above any other team in the NFC right now, I'd say.
And so we got Detroit.
Right.
I feel good about Detroit. Detroit got the right coach in there.
Right. They got Dan Campbell, who's completely turned their team's culture around. They got Jared Goff. He's been good this season. They have a great 1-2 punch of Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery running back. And then they've had GM Brad Holmes just came in. He had an amazing draft this season. You got Jack Campbell, Sam Laporta, all those kind of guys, and Jahmyr Gibbs too. But they've just had everything go right for him this year. You got to respect it.
All right, Brock. So I want you to make your pick. Who will be in the Super Bowl?
I'm still going to stick with my pick that I had mid-season at the beginning of the season. That's Niners-Ravens.
There you have it, folks. Brock Burden, our resident sports expert. 4 semesters he's been side by side with me here in the studio. And he's choosing the Ravens versus San Francisco.
Absolutely.
But easily Kansas City could. If Kansas City beat, it wouldn't be a shocker if they beat Baltimore.
It wouldn't even then. I picked them to lose last week, but even then, Kansas City, they're just a team that you just can't count. They kind of remind me of the Patriots of the 2000s and 2010s when you just can never count them out. Whenever they're down, they're not out at all. There were a lot of moments in that Bills game where I thought they were going to lose. They pulled it out. Even with one of their offense took a huge step back with Mahomes having effectively nobody to throw to. Still in the AFC Championship, still right back to being the same old Chiefs.
But San Francisco almost lost to your Packers.
Right. I mean, obviously that was they had a lot of things just happen to go right for them. You had Anders Carlson miss a 41-yarder with a minute to go. You had the Packers defense just going yikes at the end of the game. You had just a lot of stuff that could have went wrong for the Packers. Did a lot of stuff that could have went right for the Niners went right. So there's just a lot of stuff that just happened that game. But even then, I feel like that game was just an anomaly for what the Niners have done this season. This could be this is a Niners game. This is gonna be one of those games where they just completely outclassed the Lions altogether.
So there's been some surprising play this NFL season. The one guy that kind of surprised me, halfway through the season, it seemed like Jalen Hurts could have won the MVP of the league.
Right, everything that was going well for the Eagles could have went well. Well, everything that could have went well for the Eagles went well. They started off 10-1, and then yikes, they just collapsed. It was not good at all. You had Brian Johnson, horrible offensive coordinator. He was holding Jalen Hurts back. I don't know what could have possibly happened in that locker room to cause a huge rift from going from 10-1 to just making the playoffs and getting blown out in the first round.
What was
Obvi-
their record? What was Philadelphia's record?
They started off 10-1 and finished 11-6, I
Are
think.
you serious?
Right. They had like their lone loss was against the Jets, like at 10-1. Then everything just went downhill after that. They had lost to teams like the Cardinals and Giants. I don't know what like we're gonna see a lot of offseason speculation on what could have possibly happened to cause them to just tumble down just like that. But we'll see a ton of that this offseason.
Question. Question. So we've got some players that really stepped up. I think rookie of the year is C.J. Stroud.
CJ
right?
Stroud, absolutely.
Rookie. Wow. How old is that guy? Like 22 years old?
He is 22 or 23, one of those two.
I mean, the future, I'm going to tell you right now, Jordan Love stepped up and shocked a lot of people. A lot
He
of people
sure
didn't
did.
think, I think there's some racism involved in there.
I would say like even when the Packers who started off at 3-6 things were just not looking well at all. But then he just turned it everything just shifted. Jordan Love played amazing to end the season. Matt LaFleur called amazing games week in and week out, and he showed everybody who he was last week in Dallas, and then against the Niners, he actually had a pretty solid game given against that Niners defense. He went toe to toe with the best team in the NFL, so he's going to have an amazing second year next season.
Do you think, Brock, that there was some racism against Jordan Love, or just based on his play, people were skeptical? It wasn't a race issue.
I mean, it's just NFL, like pretty much NFL fan logic. People will always question how someone plays, like if they just don't put up like the same, if they're inconsistent, don't put up the same numbers they usually do. There will always be questions raised on, can a quarterback take them to the next level? Can a quarterback improve their play? Can they play at a higher level than most? That's been it goes for a lot of quarterbacks. Like I remember people were writing off Josh Allen even mid-season too when the Bills started off slow, and then when they turned it around and won the division, there were a lot of people just going back on their words. So
Yeah, so Jordan Love, amazing player.
absolutely.
You couldn't have I don't think you could have a better player. But then you have some other players that are in there that just, I don't think they're going to make it. I don't think Justin Fields is going to. I think that guy is a scrub.
I think he's done for. I mean, he started off poorly this season. He picked it up when it was the end of the season, but by then it was much too late. And they're going to replace him this offseason. I feel like the Bears are going to probably trade him for like a fourth round pick or something, and they're going to take Caleb Williams at number 1.
Really? But Caleb Williams seems to have some emotional issue. I don't know if I'd take him.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't really like.
Count him out.
I'm not gonna like if I were a GM, I'm just looking past like that's just how players are nowadays. They want to do whatever they can do to win, and when they don't do that, and then things could not get good, wouldn't get good for them, get well for them. But at the same time, Caleb Williams he's a once in a lifetime talent. We just haven't seen like he's been. I would say he's being underrated by NFL fans now. People are just discrediting him because he paints his nails, he's emotional, but that should not take away how good of a quarterback he is.
Well, we'll see what happens. So you think Mac Jones is out of the league?
Definitely, I feel like the
Bailey Zapp, Zappy, whatever.
he's done too. That's like
horrific.
It's,
Both those guys are horrible.
They have just been the Patriots had a just horrible season, decimated by injuries and just bad, mediocre quarterback play. That's going to change this offseason. They're going to have a ton of cap space to work with. They'll have new head coach Gerard Mayo. That's going to be after Bill Belichick's exit. They have Gerard Mayo in. He emphasized in his first press conference the need for a quarterback and need for more important positions. So I feel like at number 3, they'll pick 3rd in the NFL draft. They're going to take Jaden Daniels.
Is he that good?
He's that good. He was the Heisman winner this season. He just put up amazing numbers. He's definitely going to be a franchise quarterback.
So, do you think what's his name for Washington?
Penix.
Penix, is he a first round draft pick?
I don't really. I mean, that's kind of tough because like people like the problem with him is that he's obviously he's had injury problems, like
Major injuries, right?
major injury problems.
Is he 24?
He's 24. That's another thing. Age comes into play when it comes to taking quarterbacks in the first round. That's why guys like Hendon Hooker last year fell. He was 24 years old. They'll be 25 or they'll be 28 by the end of their rookie contracts. You don't really want to take someone like 24, 25. That's considered old for an NFL prospect because then when you're paying, if they make it to their second contract, when you're paying them, when you're deciding what to pay them, because you'll have to pay them a massive extension. When you're paying them that, you're going to consider their age because they'll be almost 30 by the time their rookie contract period's up. So that's why it's wise to go after a guy that's like 22, 23, and then you can just evaluate from there.
So, as we wind down the show, got a few more minutes. Let's talk about the Dallas Cowboys. Uh, there are no words in human language that can express my disappointment with the Dallas Cowboys. They went 12-4, no, 12-5 again. I think it's the third or fourth
This
year
is the
they won.
third year in a row they went 12-5.
They won 12-5, and they lose. They got not just lose. They get blown out by the Packers. Just the Packers just erupted on them.
Right.
Was
Even
it 27-0?
it was 27-0 after a Darnell Savage pick six, and I was like, even I, as a Packers fan, even I didn't expect us to come out looking like that. That was impressive, just an ultimate blow. You can't really let the final score 48-32 deceive you. That was just a complete obliteration from both ends all game long.
So do you think Jerry Jones made the right decision in giving McCarthy one more season?
Not at all. I don't think like even as a Packers fan, I have seen just McCarthy. He's been obviously won a Super Bowl 12 years ago. But even then, even you can trace a lot of problems when it comes to the playoffs with Green Bay. You can trace a lot of those to him back then against you can look at the Seahawks game in 2015, kicked 2 field goals from the 1 yard line that ended up costing him. He was playing and he wasn't playing to win, he was playing not to lose. And I feel like that's happened in Dallas too. He's like a regular season. He's a great coach in the regular season, and then the postseason just all falls down.
So what do you do to change that?
I mean, they could have. I mean, obviously, I feel like if Dallas were really serious about getting rid of McCarthy, I feel like they were going to try and they're probably going to. They were. I feel because I've seen reports saying that if they did end up getting rid of McCarthy this offseason, they probably would have went after like Belichick or something like that, something along the lines of that. But I mean, obviously McCarthy's contract expires at the end of next season, so they'll probably. I mean, this is the same franchise that held on to Jason Garrett for as long as they did, and that cost them a ton. And I feel like they're just going to make the same mistake with Mike McCarthy.
Speaking of McCarthy, a different McCarthy, J.J. McCarthy for Michigan. Is he a first-round draft pick, or do you think he's going to be second or third-round pick?
I think he's a day 2 pick. Like, I don't really see like there's going to be teams that are desperate for a quarterback that probably try trading up to get in that kind of range. I think a team like Minnesota is what comes to mind here. But at the same time, I don't think there's many like teams that are as high on him as they are on like Caleb Williams, Drake May, Jane Daniels, quarterbacks like that. I could see a team like maybe the Raiders or the Vikings going after him, but at the same time, he just feels more like a day 2 pick.
Fourth-round pick, maybe?
I think it's going to be second or third round. Maybe if something crazy happens fourth round. Because I mean, this is like last draft we saw like Will Levis. He was supposed to be like a top 15, 20 pick, and he fell all the way down to like round 4 or round 3. Something.
Well, wasn't Dak Prescott a third-round pick?
I think he was a 5th round pick.
So, I mean, I'll be honest with you. I think J.J. McCarthy's a great player, but I don't think he's a first-round pick.
I think he's gonna be like Daniel Jones or something along the lines of that. He's gonna be good enough to impress you in the draft, but he's not gonna be enough to take your team to the next level. Like he's not gonna be enough to be like a franchise quarterback that you'll be paying like forever because of like consistency. Like it's like the Giants made that mistake with Daniel Jones. They They took him. He took a while. He took a bit to develop into a solid quarterback, and then when he does, they go to the playoffs last season, and then they win a playoff game, and they decided that was enough for them to give him a mega contract extension. And now, even in year one of that extension, it's not looking good at all for him.
I'm gonna agree with you on that one, Brock. I just have not seen enough out of McCarthy. He's a great manager of Jim Harbaugh's offense, but I don't see him passing all over the field.
He's pretty much like I agree. He's pretty much a game manager, like one of those guys. It's like he'll follow your system. He'll win you a few games because of it, but he's not good enough to take over a game on its own. Like he's not like a
Joe Burrow.
He's not like a Joe Burrow or a Justin Herbert or something like that that'll take over games completely.
All right, Brock. Last thing before we sign off tonight. Jim Harbaugh, will he be the coach of the Chargers by the next time we talk?
Yes, I feel like that's gonna be done this week. We've seen like even today, we found out some new reports that he's meeting with them today. I've seen a ton of reports saying they're trying to finalize a deal so they can get like what GM he wants, what coordinators he wants to bring along. So I feel like that's gonna happen by the end of the week.
Well, there you have it, folks. NFL update. Week 1 of the Lee Enoch Show 2024 season with Brock Burgeon and Lee Enochs. We'll see you guys next week.
Absolutely.
Have a great night. God bless.